Hey, did you know that believing a lie can literally change who you are? We're going to talk about it in just a minute.
Hey, Auntie.
Hey, everybody. How are you doing out there? We know it's been a minute, but your aunties are back. And we're super excited to be here tonight because we have a topic that we believe is going to blow your mind, like literally blow your mind, because we're going to be talking about the truth and lies and how lies literally can affect your personality, your character, and in fact, who you are. We're going to talk about how that comes about historically and all those things that we normally do. We're going to do things a little bit differently tonight. There'll be no reading. We're just going to go straight into our conversation. So I want to welcome back to the show Auntie Rose and Auntie Genoa. Hey, ladies.
Hey, hey.
Hey. And thank you so much, DY, behind the scenes as usual, keeping us all together, looking beautiful and sounding great and ready for action. So this topic came about with a conversation between me and Auntie Genoa. And Auntie Genoa really wanted to do this topic about false responsibility, and which really goes hand in hand with false accusations. And we're going to show you how that all ties together, right? So I wanted to start with a story about, I don't know if you all remember Khalif Browder. He was a young man he allegedly stole a backpack, right? And then he was put into Rikers Island prison. Now, if you know anything about Rikers Island, that is like one of the most hardcore penal institutions in the land. And they put that young man in there because he allegedly stole a backpack, which, by the way, they never found. And at the end of the day, he spent 3 years in Rikers, never had a trial. And his family couldn't afford, I think it was the $1,000 bail to get him out. And so he stayed in that prison for 3 years. He is a child. I believe he was like 16 or 17. He was tried as an adult for whatever reason. And at the end of the day, as I said, they never found a backpack. And he ended up, when he was released, killing himself. So that story is called the Khalif Browder story, and it's on Netflix right now. So
Wow.
in the beginning of this conversation, wow is right. I said that believing a lie can change who you are. And he always stuck to it. He stuck to his truth. But how many of us are swayed by something somebody else says about us, even if it's not true, especially in your childhood as a child, where you're easily persuaded, and it ends up changing the whole trajectory of your life, because in the end of the day, that lie changes who you are.
True.
So since Auntie Genoa brought this topic to the table, I'm going to let you have the first stab at this. What do you say about this? What's your take?
Well, my take is, especially because one thing about us, we love truth. We are not naturally just liars. We want to be upstanding people and everything. And when somebody lies on us, it does something right here to the heart. And if you're unable to defend yourself and refute it, and then the person that made the accusation and lie and just keep it going, and then you have a whole bunch of people with a false narrative against you. It makes you kind of view yourself a little bit different because you know that you're being viewed different. Because I had a situation like that in my family, and I was never able to get it rectified. And so there are members of my family that still believe this lie that is so contrary to who I am at my core, and it makes me sad because they don't know me.
Okay, and they don't know you, and what did it do to you?
It made me not be as open, you know, when I'm dealing with them, because I know that they believe the lie that the other person told them, and then they're treating me. They act like everything is fine, the same, but they're treating me slightly different. I'm different with them because I'm less open, and they're different with me because they believe the lie. My virtue and my good name has been taken away from me, and so they what they believed about me at first, when I was upstanding in their eyes, I was treated like I was upstanding. But when they believe a lie, they treat you like a liar.
Got it. And so what's interesting is as you're speaking, I hear you pointing toward what they think and how I am around them and how my relationship with them is as a result. And I think that what I'm really trying to get at in this conversation is how it does literally change who we are as a person, because it may not even just be with them. It may, I don't know, maybe or maybe not, it may have changed something about the way that you are in totality. And so I guess that's what I'm really trying to get at.
I'm less open.
Got it. With everyone.
I'm less open.
Okay.
Where before I was open, but I'm less open, and I'm a little bit more guarded than I was before.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. And you know, one of the things that the topic literally is false responsibility. And so as you were speaking, I was wondering with all of us, you know, when we do take on what someone else has said about us, like you ought to be doing this, or you should be doing that, or this is your problem. And we take on that responsibility. Well, then it's a false responsibility. It's not really ours. And so that gets into an even deeper level. Or if, you know, someone lies about something, right? But the truth needs to come out. And then the rest of us in the village, in the community, in the world say, well, you know what? The emperor has no, there's one person saying the emperor has no clothes. Everybody else is saying, well, I see purple linen and I see wonderful fabric, and surely this just must be the most amazing garment I've ever seen. You know, the metaphor is, you know, that now the truth is buried even deeper because we all come into concert to say, oh no, this over here is the truth, when we know that it's a lie. And that goes to, you know, fake news. When we hear fake news, we bite, we believe it, and it's becoming more and more common that we don't do our critical thinking when it comes to a lie, or what we're willing to take it on and wear it. What about you, Auntie Rosemarie?
You know what? I'm gonna be vulnerable here. I'm gonna take my eyelashes off, you know, my shoes, my earrings off. I'm about to, because this topic really, really changed me a lot. So I'm just gonna lay it out there. When I was 12 years old, you know, pretty much everybody knows that my mother died when I was like 10. So when I was 12 years old, I was at that time staying with my aunt and my siblings. So, you know, 5 girls, 1 boy. And so my aunt was dating this guy, and he was Jamaican. So, you know, everybody was fascinated about Jamaicans, you know. So she worked at night and he worked during the day. So he would wake me up to lock the door. So, you know, and I was very like a playful child and everything. So I just remember walking to the door, half asleep, And he's like, oh, give me a kiss goodbye. And I'm like, okay. And then, I turned my cheek and he turned my face. And then there was the kiss, and then there was the tongue. So I didn't think nothing of it. I'm like, oh, that's just the way Jamaicans kiss. And so I remember playing with my siblings, and then I heard my name. Rosemary, come here. I was playing. I was in a playful mood. So I skipped all the way to my aunt's. And when I saw him, because I had told my aunt what happened earlier, I didn't think nothing of it. So when I saw him, he was crying like he lost his whole family.
Ooh.
And that's when I knew it was wrong. So she said, he was like, I didn't. And I'm like, what? And my aunt turned to me and said, if you ever tell another lie like that again, I'm going to put you out. I looked at the window of all the snow because I was thinking about running away. But then I heard my siblings playing in the back, and I'm like, I can't leave them. So that changed me because I never skipped again after that. That put me in a place where I was on the edge. And to stop skipping, even though I was 12, I was skipping. But yeah.
Yeah. So that is horrific, first of all.
Wow.
And I heard that it changed you from skipping. And that, to me, the skipping is a metaphor for it changed you from being a happy, carefree, go-lucky child.
Yes.
And then stayed with you, and then transitioned into something else.
Yeah.
One of our viewers saying your innocence was lost. Yes. Your innocence is lost, and it's stolen. They're saying stolen even, and it is true.
I'm going to tell you how it changed me because it changed me where I needed you to know the truth. I did everything. This is everyone. I'm like, see, look, I was here at such and such a time. I used to save my receipts and everything just so you can believe me.
So hypervigilance came in. Literally lies, whether we tell the lie or someone tells the lie about us, or we tell the truth and no one believes us, it literally changes our belief system. When I was about 7, I've told this story before, but it definitely is apropos. When I was about 7, I have a cousin, and I got this doll for Christmas, and the doll is supposed to walk, right? The walking doll, but it has those stiff doll legs. So my cousin, who was a few years older than I was, took my doll and tried to walk it down my grandmother's front porch, which was cement. Well, you already know where this story is going, right? So the doll ends up on the ground broken because obviously the little doll's stiff legs cannot walk down this cement porch. And so I take my doll inside. I'm very upset. I go to my mother. It's Christmas. So, a kid, when you get Christmas toys, it's the first day. You don't want your toy to break on the first day. Exactly. So I'm all heartbroken. I go in, I take the doll. I show it to my mother. I'm crying. And she says, well, we're just going to have to, figure this all out. And she says, well, who broke the doll? And I said, my cousin, said her name. And my father overheard and was probably intoxicated and said, that's a damn lie. You broke that doll and you better just tell the truth about it. And I said, I am telling the truth. And I told the truth repeatedly. It was her. We were over here. This is how it happened. And the doll broke. Well, my father decided that I needed to get a whipping. And so he did that. And I mean, it was a bad one that leaves webs on your body. And so the next day, I don't know what happened. If my cousin called or her mother talked to my mother, I don't know what happened. But my mother ended up getting the absolute truth from my cousin.
Mm.
And then when my father came home that night, she told him. And he called me in the kitchen. My mother would always feed my father before she would feed us so that they could talk and whatever, I guess. And he calls me in the kitchen and he's having corn, which is like my favorite thing in the world. So he calls me over there. I sit on his lap and he's feeding me corn, right? And he's apologizing in his own way. I guess that's, his way. Well, he never said, "Daddy, sorry." It was just the corn and this kind of backdoor halfway apology. Non-apology is what I call them. And so, in his world, all was right? Because I've called my daughter to me. I've told her what I now know. But in my little 7-year-old pliable little mind, what that did to me is it gave me cognizant dissonance, right? Because on one hand, my mother would always tell me, "Paige, always tell the truth, always tell the truth." And I had told the truth, but the truth had not helped me. And so then that day, that moment is when I learned to lie. And so it fundamentally changed who I was. And it gave me another message in my belief system, because the original message was, when you tell the truth, mommy can help you and we'll figure it out. The new message is lie, 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 because it's not going to make a difference when you tell the truth. Mm-hmm. So in the bigger picture, we talked about the community, the world, and how we believe things that aren't necessarily true. Mm-hmm. But we all choose to believe it because we think that the lie is more painful or whatever that is. So now we have two stories, three stories really on the table. Auntie Genoa's story about what happened with her relatives, your story about what happened with the Jamaican man, and my story about what happened with my father. Let's talk about what happened with the ancestors. Yeah. Because everything that happened with the enslaved ancestors was stored in their DNA. Yes. And passed down to us. And so how that's playing out today is we can't tell sometimes what the truth is, or we choose not to know the truth.
Right.
Either of you have anything you want to say about that?
I do. My thing is, because I'm pretty sure all of us have people in our family that would rather give you something than apologize when apology is needed, number one. And number two, I'm pretty sure all of us have somebody in our family or somebody's that they cannot endure the truth. So you gotta even if you know the truth, they if you say something or they turn their head, like the oppressors did when they saw one of their own doing too much, and instead of telling them, "Hey, you need to stop" or whatever, they just turned their heads so they didn't witness it, and that's what we do. When we don't want to witness something, even though we know we turn our head. Turn our head.
I agree with you.
Don't look. Don't listen. I want this, and because I want this, I have to look away. Because if I look and I see the truth, then I have to deal with it.
Yes. Right. And what about the person on the other end of that too? Where they know that they're being done wrong and people are turning their head and acting like they don't see. Because if we bring that up to today, we see a lot going on with our police departments. Like, a lot of corruption going on, a lot of abuse, a lot of killing, a lot of, just disorder. I'm not saying every police officer's bad. Please don't write us, don't call us. We're not saying that. But what we are saying is that we notice it. We notice it. And then the relative truths, that I can't stand, that wishy-washiness. I am such a truth seeker. It's like that, well, you have your truth and I have my truth, and the sky's not really blue. From my perspective, it's looking more a little orange today. that's an extreme example, but you know what I mean when I talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Extreme
I wanted
age.
to say,
go ahead.
no, I wanted to say, you know what, you mentioned, about the truth, and then in history, had we had um, um, to save our lives, we had to pass,
Right.
and a lot of people take that, they kind of frown on that, and I used to until I realized if you're saving your life, and if you can pass, you know, I'm like, I don't have a problem with that because you're saving your life. Now, if you're passing because, you just want to think that the other side is better, then, I mean, there's a little bit like, to it. But I'm thinking about the things in history where we don't talk about a lot of men, our boys being raped. And that's not brought up. I haven't seen a movie yet, like Roots. I haven't seen a movie yet that they explore where the young boys were being raped,
Right.
and they're trying to hide that lie.
And being groomed, wearing women's clothing and all that other stuff, and putting makeup on them, making them girls, so it would be more acceptable.
And
And
yeah,
it's not
Wow.
dealt with. It's
and
not
Yeah.
dealt with.
You brought up, so then that goes to gender identity, right? That's another big,
yeah,
false
deal.
accusation, essentially.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? I was watching a particular person who, when it comes to racial topics, she and I are as far as, the left is from the right, from the east, from the west. But she hit on something really powerful with the gender identity conversation. Because all of these are lies. Boys believing they're girls, girls believing they're boys, and it's interesting because she did a whole expose, and I can send you guys the clip. But she did a whole expose on the grandfather of the gender identity movement and how it all got started. And what happened was there was a couple, I'm not going to go deep into this because this is just one topic on this broader topic, but there was a couple who had twin boys. The twin boys weren't urinating properly. So the parents took them in to see the doctor. The doctor went to circumcise the boys and cut off too much of one of the boys' penis. So he ended up, the parents didn't know what to do. So they ended up raising this boy as a girl. And later on, they had all these surgeries and changed his genitalia. And then this doctor that they took the boys to, this psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever he was supposed to be, started experimenting with these two boys. The little boy was literally had testosterone, had all of his regular facilities, except for, his genitalia. This boy was rejected by the girls at school because he was acting too much like a boy for them, even though he was in a dress, even though, they had his hair long, bows, and, the girls' shoes and all that. He was rejected by the girls. He was rejected by the boys. He couldn't go to either of the boys or the girls' bathroom, ended up using the bathroom behind the school in a ditch, and had all these problems as he was growing up because he knew he was a boy. He knew that he was a boy. And so eventually he ended up on the Oprah show 4 months after he was on the Oprah show explaining what this doctor had done. I mean, he was doing crazy experiments, like having the two boys do, sexual acts on each other and just all this. This is the grandfather of the gender identity movement. This is where this all comes from. So everything is always rooted in something. And you know what it's rooted in? The truth.
Yeah.
So the truth is that these children, the majority of that, they're not confused about their identity. They are being attacked by a movement that is geared toward stripping them of their identity and causing confusion. So, there's the imposter syndrome. That's another thing that comes out of false accusations and false responsibility, is that, you get to a certain level of success, you get to, you're in your divine calling, or, what it is you're supposed to do in the world, your mission. And, you're thinking, am I really supposed to be here? Am I really good enough? I'm just not quite sure, because the false accusations all along, you're not good enough. You're not Black enough. You're not white enough. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough, you're not handsome enough, you're not educated, all the things that when you get to the level where you're supposed to be really performing productively in the world, you can't do it because you have imposter syndrome. There's just a number of things that, it changes a person's belief system.
That's true.
But isn't that interesting about that doctor?
Yeah.
Where's he at now? Is he still living?
I believe he's dead. But here's what's interesting. This person that did this expose also showed the Pride Day celebration in Seattle, Washington, where there were men butt naked, totally naked, riding bikes in the parade, and there were children spectating. They also were at a fountain, like a main square in Seattle, where a lot of people gather with their children because it's hot and, they have little sprinklers and all that. It's near a fountain and they're stark naked there also with children around. But the worst was in the actual parade, they were chanting. Now this, I think, was in Oregon, this one. They were chanting, mothers and fathers, we're coming for your children.
Yeah. I've heard that.
I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But this false identity is now coming for the children and making no bones about it. I mean, it was public and it was in plain view that this was going on. So, and it changes people's belief systems. Part of what changes the belief system too is that nobody wants to be canceled. Nobody wants to go against the grain. Nobody wants to be in the position of being the only one who believes this thing and say something about it. And so it behooves us to stand up and be that one. I've said this over and over in the show. If we really want the truth, sometimes we have to be the truth teller, even though we're the only one telling the truth.
Right.
Can I say something?
Of course.
Okay, this is what I want to say. Because you have all these men that feel like they're women, but they're not willing to take low. They want to stand up in their manpower and take control. You don't never hear a peep out of the women. They ain't over there. We demand our rights. We want to go into the bathroom and everything. But every time you find a man in some space where he's standing up, because that's what men do, and they're not soft. They still got their muscles and all this other stuff. You can't. There's no pill, no medication or anything that's going to make you a female. So if you want to be yourself and then you want to be us, where does that leave us as the female? You cannot be both. And if you want to be a female, why don't you be docile like you be telling all the females to be? Don't be strong. You're too masculine and whoa. But you want to be a female, but you want to be a masculine, but you want to be looked at as soft. It don't work.
Right. And that's interesting how it kind of spreads like an infection, because, and what I mean by that is, for example, in sports, where a male transgender female, so male to female transgender, wants to then box against another female in the MMA, run against another female on track, and compete in these activities where, yes, their body structure is completely different, but because no one wants to say anything, no one wants to rock the boat, they will let them compete. And so it's just interesting how society is kind of getting weak around this topic of false responsibility and false accusation. I was looking at the book, Healing the Wounds of American Slavery, and I was on page 168. And I remember that I wrote, how sometimes the enslaved had to lie about something that had happened to prevent being killed, sold, beaten, raped, whatever. I mean, there was just so much going on. For example, if a sister works in the kitchen, because, there were the enslaved who worked in the kitchen, and then there was the enslaved who worked in the fields, and some who worked, in the house with the families of the so-called masters. And, let's just say, and we know this happened, it's a hypothetical because I wasn't there, but I have read accounts where, there would be the woman who worked in the kitchen, fed the family of the so-called masters, and something would happen in the cabins, and they would need a little extra food. They would need a little medicine. They would need a little extra provisions, a little more coal to keep the newborn baby from dying in the coldness of the cabin. And they would steal. So that woman that works in the house, either with the family in the kitchen, she or he would steal. And, if they were caught, then, or if the provisions were found to be missing, let me put it that way.
Right.
If the provisions were found to be missing, somebody's going to take the punishment for that.
Yes.
And so if they didn't know who it was, now they're lining everybody up.
Right.
Right. And sometimes if it was a child who had done it or a woman who had done it, one of the men would stand up and take responsibility. But now, what does that do to his soul? That he has confessed to something he didn't do, but had felt in his heart that he had to do it, or else someone else will be punished. That kind of thing was happening all the time.
Yes.
Or that they would take that man before the entire community and now punish him to the point, an inch within his life, whip him, beat him, probably take him around the barn and rape him to show how powerful they were in comparison, something like that. But then now what does that do to the rest of the community?
Right.
When it comes time to tell the truth about something. If you have a truth-telling heart, but your circumstances are creating an environment where you have to lie just to be safe, where you have to lie just to protect someone else, where you have to lie just to live.
Yes.
So we know that everything that happened with our ancestors lives in their DNA or lived in their DNA. That DNA is then transferred generation to generation to generation. And so how is that showing up in this generation?
It's the same. It's the same thing. I feel like with so many of young Black men going to jail for nothing, or they didn't do it, but they had to find, like the exonerated 5. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's so many people that's in prison and haven't done nothing. 30 years. 40 years of their life, and you're innocent. And then and now they have it where you have to sign papers before you can get out, so you're not suing. So they prolong it, your release, even though they know that you're innocent.
Right.
It's horrible. It's horrible. They want you to lie and say, well, I had some part in it, and sign it, so you're not going to sue anyone. It's the same thing. From the history on up until today, it's the same.
And isn't it interesting that go ahead.
I mean, even the resources, they can go and get help without no problem. A lot of people can go and get help when it's us, because we're assumed criminals and assumed liars and assumed always using the system in order to get help. People lie. I need some food for my kids, but if I tell them I have this, I'm not going to get it. I need them some help paying this bill, but if I tell them I got this, I'm not going to get no help. So in order to get help and resources that other people take for granted, they condition you to lie to get the help. Or and if you're unwilling to lie, you just suffer. That's we're in between either the lying and getting help, or not lying and suffering. There's no in between. There's nothing in between.
Yeah. So being blamed for something that you didn't do, it literally changes who you are, especially when there are consequences for what it is you were supposed to have done. I met the exonerated 5 at USC. We're talking about the 15 to 16-year-old young men back in I think it was the 80s or 90s, the 80s, I believe it was.
Mhm.
And they were in New York and they were in Central Park and they were blamed, right? We're talking about false accusation. They were blamed for beating and raping this white woman.
Yes.
And it turns out that none of them were even on the scene when that happened.
Yes.
And Corey, the youngest of the five, I was having a conversation with him, and he has a tag around his neck that says that he is certifiably schizophrenic, insane, so that the police will not attack him when they find him, or people will leave him alone, essentially.
Mhm.
And I'm in this conversation with him, and I could see his eyes just shifting back and forth, and just his mannerisms were so skittish. And even when they were talking on the panel, they talked about how prison, and especially being imprisoned for something you
Oh my
did not do, and you didn't do it,
Yes.
how that changes you. It changes you entirely. And
Yeah.
how sometimes when those men and women go into the prison system, they put them in solitary confinement. You're only supposed to be in solitary confinement for 30 to 60 days, according to California law. I don't know about other places, but they leave them in there for decades.
Yeah.
And we are communal, relational creatures. We need to have conversations.
Yeah.
We need to have talk. We need to talk. We need to relate to each other. And so they end up relating to the voices in their heads. And a lot of them go completely.
I find it kind of interesting. I find it kind of interesting that you said he has a tag. That puts me in the mind of Cain, when God had to tag Cain so nobody that found him would kill him when he killed his brother in the Bible.
Interesting.
I find that kind of interesting. I mean, wow.
Yeah, it was interesting too, because he was kind of proud of it. He was kind of proud of it. Like, no one can mess with me as long as he wore it like a shield.
Right.
Like, protection. Like, nobody can mess with me as long as I have this on. And he said that like a few times, like, nobody can mess with me as long as I have this on. It's just.
And where did he get it from? The oppressor, right?
Right.
He got it from the oppressor,
probably
right?
mental health department or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but how, with people with that criminal activity, when you go in there, you're dead in the water, because they're going to do everything to you that's unimaginable.
Oh, yeah.
And it's horrible that they had to live that life. And now he's protected himself by a sign that so he could feel better.
But
he's
sad. I think he's getting better now, because I believe that Ava DuVernay, I believe that she did a project with them, and I saw interviews around that project, and so they seem like they're kind of beginning to heal. But how do you ever heal from having your soul completely broken like that?
Exactly.
How do you ever heal from that? I wanted to talk a little bit too about the refusal to snitch. The refusal to snitch. And you know what? I just want to say one thing really quickly, because there's something even more interesting I wanted to get into. That's part of what creates that no snitch culture. Is, that we want to hide the truth about what happened because of fear of reprisal and fear of consequences. And we really don't want to see this person get in trouble.
Right.
So we know that. I want to talk about broken relationships with the last 20 minutes that we have here, because this is, to me, one of the most important aspects of, false responsibility and false accusations. When one person falsely accuses another, when a family, like we've all talked about here, when there's a false accusation within a family, what does that do to the relationships between two people?
Yeah.
Male, female, two friends. What does that do within the context of the family, the community, and then the globe, in terms of broken relationships behind lies that are told, that are never rectified, and somebody picks up that blame, that shame, that whatever it is that comes along with it, And what does that do to our relationships? I believe it breaks our relationships. They're
Yeah, it
broken.
does.
And
It
in
does.
what way?
I'm going to say one phrase, and I bet both of you have something to go with it. What goes on in this house stays in this house.
Yeah. 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 But you know what? It causes division. It causes we're not trusting. You know, there's you're looking side eye, and there's that rumor that's the elephant in the room, or whatever it is. When they come, they have a black cloud over them, and everybody is whispering, and as soon as they leave the room, it's that, who wants to live like that? And especially if a person is not, if you don't know the story, people adding on to it. Now it's a difference when the slave, the wife of a slave had to say, "Master, I was just over here doing this for him, and he wasn't over there," to lie to protect. But to just get out there and just really just put somebody like the exonerated five, just say they did this and they didn't do it. Yeah. And then, or, you know, it just creates it creates a whole devastating community relationship, whether it's two people, whatever, a family. You can't get past the black cloud. You can't get past people staring at you, or you know, oh, that's the one that did that. That's the black sheep of the family. Let me tell you.
That's so good. I'm so glad you said black, because it makes me think about black people. And it makes me think about the false accusations against us, and how that kind of divides us with other groups of people.
Thank you.
For example, like, you know, the angry black woman. All black women are angry. Well, that's a false accusation. I'm not angry. Exactly. I'm just not angry. I'm very happy. You know, that, you know, black men steal. Black kids are stupid. White kids hate black kids. You know, Karen is everywhere. You know, all those things that cause that racial divide. I was in the store the other day, and there was a man at the checkout. The lady was white, the checker was white, the man was black. And the next thing I know, he's saying all kind of MFers and S words and F words. And I'm like, what is going on? And essentially, they had followed the man all around the store.
Yeah.
Then when he got to the register, they didn't want to take his card for whatever reason, didn't believe it was valid or whatever it was. And it was just all these false accusations railed against him. And I mean, he was going off. Then the next thing you know, somebody in the line, white woman with her little boy, was saying, "Oh, what, you know, you just need to cut it out because we're trying to get up here and you." And in her, the way that she was being, it was as if she had bought the lie. Whatever this false accusation was, she had bought it, and now she's going to jump in on it. So that's what I mean by broken relationships. How would it be different if we really knew the truth about each other? Exactly. And we just refuse to keep believing the false accusations because it's ingrained.
Yes.
And you know what? It can even go to the point of death.
Yes.
Because they did.
You can't get past it though.
Yeah,
unless the children can get past it.
They did say at one point they were going to call the police in there. And so that's what I was about to say about to the point of death. Like if the police had come in on the man, they were going to call the police on the man because he was being belligerent or whatnot. But to your point, go ahead, Auntie Genoa, you're going to talk about children, how it has to start with the children.
Well, the problem is a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, the children don't have a voice. They're like little sponges soaking up everything, and whatever the adult says, that's what it is. And the child could be like, "Oh no, but no, but no, but no." But the adult is insistent and forcing the child to live in this lie. And so they're soaking in it, they're simmering in it, they're spun around in it, and they cannot get out of it. And the thing is, it's the pile up syndrome, because you know, once one thing starts, lies have a tendency to attract other lies, and they just kind of just swaddle you and follow you around. And the children, they saw the truth. And so now when they see stuff because of what they experience, they don't have no respect for adults. They don't have no respect for elders. They don't have no respect for authority because all they see is a bunch of liars that made them live in a lie.
What happens when the truth is consistently buried by lies?
Oh my God. You know what? I need to piggyback on what you said, Paige, when you said the white woman stood up and automatically she was jumped on board with everything that she's been taught or everything that she's been passed down in her DNA. That, it's how many times have we been in that situation where we're not believed? And she's just automatically going to say, she turns into a policeman and automatically says, oh no, it's this, it's that. And that's what a lot of people do. They don't realize that they automatically going on the belief of a system that is lie on lies on top of lies. I was at the line one time.
She mentally turned her head, Rose. She mentally turned her head.
Mentally turned her head. And that's where we are. Everybody is mentally turning their heads. So then my question becomes, what happens when the truth is consistently buried by lies?
You know what? It comes
out.
It
changes people's thinking. It changes people's thinking. It changes how they look at stuff. And because the thing is, right now, people would rather believe the lie than believe the truth, because the lie has gotten so much traction and it's so big. And then you have your truth flag waving down here. It's so little. And people are like, oh no, I'm just going to go with the lie over here. Everybody then jumped on board this thing and I don't want to stand out.
I don't want to stand out.
Right. You know what? When it finally comes out, and this what gets me, when the truth comes out, especially down history where, Black people have been at this and that and different things, and when the truth comes out, it's like, oh, okay, well, let's go to, now we're going to talk about candy. It comes out, but it's like, it's a dismissal.
Right.
All the stuff that you've been beating, saying, this is it. No, it's not. This is it. This is it. This is it. And it goes back. And for me, it always goes back to when I'm looking at that map as a child in class, and United States is big as the whole chalkboard. And, and Africa is looking like the Hawaiian Islands.
Right.
And that was a lie. That was a lie. But but it was a lie on top of a lie. And what were they saying really?
What were they saying? What were they saying?
Exactly.
And then with all the images of Africa, a jungle and foliage and wild animals and, natives with masks and bones through their noses and, hair
no clothes.
And no clothes. Which, in some parts of Africa, they do go topless and that because it's really hot. But I mean, the way they made it look was like a bunch of savages, right?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to me what happens to the truth when it's buried by lies. I love one of the things that Auntie Genoa always says. I'm not going to steal it from you. I'm going to let you tell it to us. What do you say about the lie?
A lie can only stand until the truth shows up.
A lie can only stand until the truth shows up. So who's going to tell the truth? Who is going to tell the truth? Because we've gotten to a point where people can't tell a truth from a lie anymore.
Yeah.
Listen, let's not even get all deep into the conversation about AI. And how, they're able to change history, literally, reconstruct history.
Yes.
Reconstruct the way people look. I was talking to a friend of mine who is also an author, and she was saying, I was telling her how people were saying, oh, Paige, you need to drop your book into ChatGPT and have them translate it to another language, and it'd be so easy. Yeah, and then my intellectual property will be
Will be
completely
gone.
stolen, and
Yeah.
people could literally use my voice. We were talking about this. We were saying, people could literally use our voice
Yes.
at this point
And
and
you're
put it on a CGI or
yeah.
AI
Mm-hmm.
image and
Mm-hmm.
tell all kinds of lies
That's it.
out of
That's it.
out of my mouth, right? Or looks like
Yes.
it's coming out of my mouth. So we're going in a direction where if people don't stand up and tell the truth about what's going on, we're all just going to be in an abyss of unbelief and lies and just, fake news, for example. I mean, it's so easy. Listen, we were talking earlier about Jamie Foxx, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Foxx, we're not laughing at his illness. We're laughing at what people are saying, right? So
Did you see
Jamie
that
Foxx
picture?
is obviously
That wasn't him.
ill. He's obviously ill. What'd you say?
Yeah.
That wasn't that picture that they were showing, talking about he was helping people with their groceries and stuff. That was not
You know
him.
what?
That was not
They
him.
were saying, okay, he has a new movie out, right?
Mhm.
Coming out. Everybody knows that it takes at least a year, sometimes 2, sometimes 10. It depends on the
Right.
extent of, and the content in the movie to make a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, he's been sick for some months. There's been very little information, and that makes it even worse when they have like
Right.
no information. Then they just make up all kinds of lies. But the false accusation that's out there is that, they're lying to us. He's dead. Well, on this movie promo came up on my IG, and I just said, stop with all the rumors. Jamie Foxx is not dead.
No.
And within just a few minutes, like over 100 people liked that comment because they know Jamie Foxx is not dead. We don't have any information to the contrary, but if he was, we would know.
Yes.
And so there were other people though who were replying to my post saying, oh, well, the CIA is up to some funny business, and it's a clone of Jamie in this movie. You could tell it's not him. Well, they may have used a little CGI, they may have used a little bit of character generation, in order to finish his role.
Mm-hmm.
But, to say that somebody is dead, first of all, our words are powerful.
Yes.
And to say that this man who has a family, who, has friends, who has a whole career, right, that he has worked extremely hard for, to sit up there and say that this man is dead and put that out there, that is just, to me, sick and insane. And it's a false accusation.
It is.
It's a false accusation.
Yeah.
And the damage that does to people is it's incredible. So I just want to, as we're beginning to wrap, I want to say, first of all, thank you. I feel like somewhat, I'm not going to lie, I feel somewhat rusty at this because we haven't been doing this for a while. But I hope that our audience, thank you for your participation. I hope that you were able to get some value out of tonight's conversation. We'll be back on next Thursday and every Thursday, we hope. And when we're not going to be here, we'll let you know. We want you to definitely follow and subscribe if you're on YouTube with us tonight. We have 3 different places where we broadcast. We broadcast on Facebook in The Village, and you can go to Facebook and look for Healing the Wounds of American Slavery, and it will take you to The Village. Also, we have a page called Healing the Wounds of American Slavery. We also are on YouTube at Official Healing the Wounds of American Slavery. And if you can't find any of that, just look for We Are Your Aunties on YouTube and our videos will come up. We would also ask you to please bring your peeps to the porch. Go get your friends, your family.
Yes.
I mean, we have really awesome discussions. And we also have some incredible guests. So go get your people and join the village when you go on Facebook. Join our village and you'll find out what's coming down the pipeline. You'll get to see us in action. Now that we have all 3 aunties in California, we're going to start to actually do some work where we go out together and you'll see us out in the world doing things. We're also going to be on TikTok and Instagram Live beginning in August. Excuse me, I'm still getting over a cold. So please click, subscribe, like, and follow us. And we're going to take you on a ride that is going to really help to heal some of these things that we're talking about, but also have a lot of fun while we're doing it. Aunties, any last minute comments?
You know what? I'm so glad we did this topic because it's just not said enough. It really isn't, and you can tell by the stories tonight, that we're sitting on kegs, and we need the healings of the wounds of American slavery. We just need it.
What I would like is for people stop telling your children what goes on in this house stays in this house. There's a lot of stuff that need to get out there and be told. If we're going to protect our children and change the trajectory of the direction we're going in, the stuff that's not right needs to be told. It needs to be exposed, and the children, their little minds cannot heal if you're sautéing it in lies.
Saute, ooh, marinating, sauteing, cooking it up, cooking up the lies.
Pretty much.
That's absolutely true. And if someone falsely accuses you, you don't have to accept that.
Yeah.
You just don't have to accept it. And please stop falsely accusing other people. Get the facts. Don't just go out there, talking about what you don't know.
Yes.
That will help to stop the bleeding of this wound.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the whole fake news, the lies, do your research.
Yes.
Don't be lazy. Don't just take a headline and believe it. I did that recently with that girl who's 25-year-old nursing student who said that she saw a child on the side of the road and she went to go rescue the child and got kidnapped, and ends up, at her parents' house 2 days later. And now they're finding out that she had done all this research on her phone about kidnappings and, decoys and all this to fake it for what? For the likes, the clicks, and the popularity. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It is.
And so, I'm praying for the girl and I'm posting, let's find her and all this. And then when that came out, I said, Paige, you got caught up in it.
Yeah.
So but you know what? That didn't help. That doesn't help the people that's really in trouble.
Exactly.
That's wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. And how often do they go looking for Black people when they're kidnapped and lost?
Never.
And not at all. We're the ones who have to end up posting it and making it go viral and all that. Also, denial. Denying the truth.
Yes.
That's another thing. So be a lover of the truth. It's okay. You may be the only one standing there.
Right. Because it takes a lot of courage.
It takes a lot of courage. It takes boldness. And it just takes an attitude of knowing that one voice can make all the difference. Because nobody wanted to go in that Jamie Foxx post and say, this is a lie.
Right.
But then when I did it, not like I'm so great and all that, it's just the truth came out. And like Auntie Genoa says, the lie can only stand till the truth comes out. Yeah. My mother used to say, what can someone do with the truth but just be with it?
Yeah.
Nothing they can do to you.
That's it.
But if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything.
Yes.
Some people say anything, I say you'll fall for everything. And so that'll do it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your comments. And next week, we'll be back with an equally great topic. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you what the topic's going to be. Next week, we're going to talk about Black Hollywood. We're going to talk about how healing the wounds of American slavery in relationship to Black Hollywood. And we'll have a special guest on. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. We love you. And we'll see you back here next week. Bye-bye.
Hey, Auntie.